There's a kind of status that never needs to be announced. It doesn't depend on clothes, cars, or rehearsed phrases. It rises from a quietness that people can feel before they can explain it. The silent status effect is the phenomenon that happens when a man, through semen retention and the channeling of his vital energy, begins to emit signals of value that require no explanation. It's the opposite of self-promotion. It's presence speaking before the voice does. At first, it shows up as a subtle shift in posture. Less movement, more precision. The body learns to waste less energy. The gaze stays firm without aggression, and speech slows down, transmitting inner control. The absence of rush becomes the new luxury. When a man stops chasing attention and begins walking at his own pace, he activates a form of authority that needs no stage. There comes a point in every man's life when silence becomes louder than noise, when the body remembers what the soul has been trying to say all along. You were never meant to live drained, distracted, and diluted. The modern world has turned your energy into currency, selling your focus, your drive, and even your seed for comfort that never satisfies. But here, on Gods of SEMEN, we reclaim that current. This is not just a channel. It is a temple for the return of masculine consciousness, where the ancient art of semen retention becomes the forge of clarity, discipline, and spiritual sovereignty. In today's revelation, the silent status effect, 7 face and aura signals that make retainers untouchable, 0, 1, 80 days. You'll witness how transmuted energy reshapes presence itself, how the world begins to recognize the man who no longer leaks his essence, but radiates it. Stay until the end, because the keys revealed here will not only change how others see you, but how you see yourself. If you feel the call to rise above apathy, confusion, and the quiet exhaustion of modern life, subscribe now and activate the bell. Be part of the brotherhood moving toward 25,000 awakened men rebuilding the masculine spirit, one retained breath at a time. Retention amplifies these signals because it reorganizes the direction of drive. The energy once scattered in search of quick pleasure is pulled inward and redirected toward predictable, consistent purpose. That redirection builds behavior patterns that the collective unconscious reads as power. People can't explain it, but they feel it. Focus, posture, and calm start to communicate something deeper than appearance. Reliability. Retention doesn't create a new man. It reveals the one buried under noise. As the social cycle shifts, something curious happens. The man on retention loses interest in external validation. He begins to speak less and observe more. Every choice becomes intentional. That inner density forms a perceptible field. It's as if the environment senses him before he introduces himself. Conversations change tone when he enters a room, and even skeptics notice something is different. It isn't forced charisma. It's the natural consequence of a mind that no longer needs to prove anything. The cycle closes when he understands the ethical purpose of this force. The silent status effect isn't meant for manipulation or fetishization. It's about inspiration and discipline. The goal isn't to compete, but to transmute. Every visible signal should point toward maturity, not vanity. Silence here is an expression of mastery, not superiority. It's the sound of someone who has learned that true status isn't displayed, it's embodied. Every transformation follows a rhythm. Semen retention isn't a straight line of constant growth. It's a sequence of internal recalibrations that build on each other. From day 0 to day 180, each phase reveals a different layer of strength, awareness, and emotional control. The man who understands this timeline doesn't rush it. He synchronizes with it. To 14 days, dopamine detox and stabilization. The first 2 weeks are purification. This is when the body and brain begin to detox from overstimulation. Dopamine sensitivity slowly recalibrates, and old habits start to lose their grip. Sleep patterns stabilize, focus sharpens, and the mind experiences withdrawal not just from lust, but from instant gratification in general. The goal here is simplicity, consistent sleep, hydration, clean food, short workouts, and 0 unnecessary stimulation. This phase is about regaining control over attention. 15-45 days. The magnetic silence. Around the 3rd week, a quiet shift occurs. Reactions slow down. You no longer respond impulsively. You pause, breathe, and choose. The eyes grow steadier, and posture aligns with intention. Others notice this before you do. The aura of stillness that forms when reactivity fades. This magnetic silence is not an act of withdrawal, but a new kind of presence. You start occupying space without needing to prove that you belong there. 46-90 days. Habit consolidation. At this stage, the foundation solidifies. Discipline becomes rhythm rather than resistance. Compound exercises, deep reading, and focused work sessions anchor the transmutation. Energy that once scattered through distraction now fuels long-term output. This is where most quit or relapse, not from weakness but from underestimating the weight of stability. The man who endures this phase begins to command not just his energy, but his entire environment. 91-180 days. Social selection and long-term purpose. By the fourth month, the transformation becomes visible even to those who don't know why. Your social circle naturally filters itself. Shallow connections fall away, replaced by those who respect consistency and purpose. You begin to think in projects instead of moments. An anchor project, something that channels your creative or professional energy, becomes essential. This is where semen retention evolves from a challenge into a lifestyle. And yet the greatest trap lies in fetishizing the numbers. Counting days without transmuting energy leads to stagnation, anxiety, and hidden pride. The truth is, retention only works when the stored energy is moved upward, into work, discipline, or creation. To accumulate without direction is to build a storm with no outlet. The timeline isn't a scoreboard, it's a map of inner expansion. The man who learns to transmute rather than count understands that mastery isn't about days, it's about direction. When the inner current changes, the outer form follows. Retention reshapes not just behavior, but the micro signals that others subconsciously read. These signals operate below verbal awareness. They are what make people feel your presence before they hear your words. Across the 0 to 180-day spectrum, 7 visible shifts tend to appear most consistently, forming the silent language of retainers. 1. The stable gaze. The eyes stop wandering. There are soft micro-pauses between blinks, a calm steadiness that replaces anxious scanning. The retainer doesn't look at people. He looks into them, yet without tension. This subtle steadiness communicates confidence and control. It tells others wordlessly that your attention cannot be hijacked. 2. The jawline and facial tone. Improved sleep, hydration, and reduced inflammation give the face a new definition. It's not vanity, it's the natural result of internal balance. The musculature holds firmer, the skin brightens slightly, and the micro-expressions shift from restless to composed. What others interpret as attractiveness is actually the body's language of recovery and consistency. 3. The voice. Calmer and deeper. The voice begins to settle. The pitch drops, the rhythm slows, and sentences end with certainty instead of rising into doubt. You stop over-explaining. Reading aloud and breathing through the diaphragm further deepen this tone. What emerges is a grounded cadence that commands attention without effort. People may not understand why your voice sounds different. They just listen longer. 4. Posture and walk. Movement becomes deliberate. The spine lengthens naturally. Shoulders align with hips and each step lands with purpose. There's an absence of fidgeting. This composure signals direction. Someone who moves because he chose to, not because he was pushed. Even a silent entrance begins to carry weight. 5. Economic gestures. Hands stop filling silence. You no longer need to decorate your speech with frantic motion. The fewer gestures you make, the more meaning each one holds. This economy of movement mirrors the internal economy of energy. Nothing wasted, everything directed. Scent and grooming. Without invoking pseudoscience, what truly changes here is coherence. Hygiene improves, habits become consistent, and self-care aligns with discipline. Clean scent, neat hair, minimal but deliberate grooming choices, all become part of a quiet standard that signals order. The aura of cleanliness and intention is what people actually perceive. 7. Selective social contact. Interactions narrow but deepen. Replies become shorter, promises are kept, and your word starts to carry weight. You stop chasing conversation and start cultivating reputation. Over time, others adjust their tone around you, not out of fear but respect. The retainer becomes a man of few words and many completions. You wake up tired even after sleeping 8 hours. You scroll, you escape, you release, and still feel hollow. Your power has been traded for pixels. Your focus auctioned off by an invisible system that feeds on your surrender. Deep down, you know something sacred has been lost. the pulse of raw, masculine energy that once made men builders, warriors, and creators. The Patreon gods of semen is not social media. It's a secret portal for those ready to rebuild from within. Inside, every post, every word, every ritual is forged to reactivate your hidden strength. You'll receive daily motivational writings, forbidden videos banned from YouTube, ritual PDFs, complete series on semen retention and spiritual warfare, and philosophical readings designed to sharpen your spirit like a blade. You'll also get early access to unreleased content meant for those walking this sacred path first. But only the first 10 men who enter through the pinned comment will unlock the promotional access. The gate will close after that. This isn't for the curious, it's for those ready to shed weakness and become guardians of their essence. In this brotherhood, we don't chase dopamine, we command it. You'll feel what it's like to wake up clear, grounded, and dangerous to everything that once drained you. The line has been drawn. On one side, men enslaved by their urges. On the other, those who have become masters of their own fire. The question is, where will you stand when the dust settles? Click the pinned comment and enter while the door is still open. Together, these 7 signals form the outer expression of an inner refinement. None of them are forced, yet each one speaks louder than speech itself. They are not tricks to imitate. They are confirmations that energy has been reclaimed and refined. When your silence begins to communicate what your words once struggled to explain, that's when people start to see what you've become, without you ever needing to announce it. The transformation that retention produces is not mystical, it is behavioral physics. Every act of discipline creates predictable ripples in perception. The world begins to respond differently, not because of superstition, but because consistency, calmness, and purpose alter the social algorithms that govern trust, respect, and attraction. The rise in status happens silently, through mechanisms rooted in psychology and energy management. 1. Discipline creates predictability, and predictability creates trust. When a man commits to retention, he doesn't just control his impulses, he controls his pattern. The people around him start to notice something rare. He does what he says. He becomes the type who shows up, finishes tasks, and honors his word. In a world addicted to inconsistency, predictability becomes power. Trust builds automatically because others can sense the rhythm of your actions. You no longer have to convince anyone of your worth. Consistency speaks louder than self-promotion ever could. 2. Low reactivity builds situational leadership. Leadership is not granted, it's felt. In any group, the calmest nervous system sets the tone. When you stop reacting impulsively, your emotional baseline becomes stable, and others instinctively follow that stability. This is why men on retention are often perceived as leaders, even without seeking authority. They decide slowly but clearly. They don't flinch under pressure, which makes them anchors in chaotic environments. The one who stays unshaken naturally becomes the one others look to for direction. 3. Transmutation into creation, turning libido into value. The purest form of proof is output. Retained energy must move upward, into craft, training, or mission. When it does, it produces tangible results that the world can see and respect. A body transformed by consistent exercise, a project completed with discipline, a skill sharpened daily, all of these are silent testimonials of transmutation. The libido that once sought release now seeks realization. This conversion of drive into work creates an invisible hierarchy, men who build versus men who consume. Over time, these mechanisms converge into a single signal: sovereignty. Not arrogance, not isolation, but the quiet independence of someone who generates his own energy instead of chasing external supply. That sovereignty radiates through tone, eye contact, and decision-making. It is the essence of status without performance. People can sense it without understanding it. They call it aura, presence, or energy. But what they're really witnessing is alignment. Thought, word, and action moving in one direction. When a man becomes internally unified, he stops leaking value through contradiction. And when there are no leaks, everything he does carries weight. That is the hidden equation behind the silent status effect. Discipline breeds trust, calm breeds authority, and creation breeds respect. The man who integrates all three no longer chases recognition. The world begins to recognize him on its own. Every system of growth has its own saboteurs. In semen retention, The fall doesn't usually happen from lack of desire. It comes from subtle leaks that erode momentum. The silent status effect fades not because the man loses energy overnight, but because he compromises the patterns that sustain it. These antagonists aren't external enemies. They are inner negotiations that disguise regression as balance. 1. Edging and casual dopamine, the invisible relapse. Even without a full release, constant stimulation keeps the brain in a state of tension. Edging, scrolling, or flirt-based validation keeps the reward circuit active and craving. The result? No true rest, no true focus. The nervous system remains in anticipation mode, leaking energy through fantasy instead of creation. The recovery protocol here is the 48-hour rescue. Strict digital fast, physical exhaustion through compound training, and deep sleep reset. The goal is to cut the loop before it rewires. 2. Oversharing the journey. Discipline traded for validation. One of the most seductive traps is talking too much about retention itself. Each time you explain your process publicly, you outsource a bit of your power. The ego feeds on approval, and what should remain sacred turns into performance. When you share too soon, you invite scrutiny that destabilizes your discipline. The remedy is silence. 30 days without mentioning the practice to anyone. Let the results speak first, and let the proof circulate before the explanation. True transformation doesn't advertise, it radiates. 3. Stagnation, accumulation without transmutation. Some men mistake retention for hoarding. They accumulate energy but never redirect it into meaningful work. Over time, this unused force curdles into anxiety, frustration, and restless dreams. Retention is not storage, it's circulation. Without training, reading, and creation, the energy has nowhere to flow, and the same strength that could build begins to corrode from within. The cure is movement. Lift, write, construct, refine. Energy respects direction. Without it, it rebels. You're not weak, you're leaking. Relapses, nocturnal losses, caffeine-fueled anxiety, and social blocks that keep you small. After titles like If You Want to Skip This But Don't, Carl Jung and Why Awakened Individuals. Quietly Choose Solitude reached 110 VPH and 1.8K views in just 16 hours. We're opening the Silent Status Protocol. 7 visible signals guided by the Epic Sprint method, built on cycles plus sprints plus field tests, 3-second aura test, aura score, and relapse defense with the relapse autopsy, 72H. In 7 days, focus and sleep restored. In 21, less reactivity. In 90, reputation and output. In 1000, legacy. Whether single, dating, or married, the path is yours. Stacked offer, full ebook for $690, 72-hour urgency, and only 300 copies with the 7-day Kickstart bonus. No time? This method fits your daily rhythm, with ethics, consent, and a 7-day guarantee. Buy now through the link in the description and pinned comment. Each of these antagonists leads back to the same principle. Retention without transformation is just tension. The system was never meant to glorify control for its own sake. Control is only the doorway. Beyond it lies expression. When the man forgets this, the aura dims. The gaze loses depth, posture collapses into hesitation, and the silence becomes heavy instead of magnetic. But when he remembers, when he converts every relapse into a ritual of learning and each silence into creation, the current returns stronger. The goal was never perfection, it was persistence. The silent status effect lives in that persistence, the quiet refusal to regress into chaos. Retention without structure decays into chaos. What sustains the silent status effect is not a single act of control, but the disciplined orchestration of energy through consistent habits. The SEMEN framework translates that principle into 6 daily anchors, each one transforming raw impulse into ordered power. 1. Sleep, 7 to 8 hours in the same window. The body's circadian rhythm is the first pillar of masculine stability. Consistent sleep hours regulate testosterone, dopamine, and cortisol, the triad that governs focus, mood, and drive. Going to bed and waking at the same time each day builds predictability, the foundation of discipline. Deep sleep is transmutation in silence. It's the body rebuilding what the day consumed. 2. Exercise, 45-60 minutes, 3 to 5 times per week. Physical training is the alchemy lab of retention. Compound lifts, Squats, deadlifts, presses. Channel sexual energy into form, discipline, and breath. Each rep turns desire into direction. The workout is not about aesthetics. It's a daily ritual of proving to the body that the mind is in charge. After consistent months, posture, gait, and even tone of voice reflect that command. 3. Ritual. 60-90 minutes of deep focus, daily. This is the sacred hour where the retainer transforms silence into productivity. No phone, no noise, just concentrated creation. It might be writing, studying, coding, or crafting. The goal is immersion so deep that time dissolves. Here, energy stops leaking and begins building momentum. Over months, this single ritual redefines your identity, from consumer to creator. 4. Education. Guided study, 1 chapter per day. Information becomes transformation only through ritualized learning. Reading daily reprograms the narrative that runs your mind. 1 chapter a day, annotated and reflected upon, creates cognitive density. This discipline anchors mental clarity and aligns thought with purpose. The mind becomes a vessel for precision rather than distraction. Nutrition, protein, water, salt, and sunlight. Energy transmission begins with biology. A simple, clean diet stabilizes hormones and sustains attention. Protein repairs, salt conducts, sunlight activates. Overcomplication kills adherence. Simplicity keeps you consistent. The retainer's meal plan is not indulgence, it's alignment with natural rhythm. Her output, a visible work or project. Energy must exit the system through creation. The final stage of transmutation is contribution. This might be a weekly thread, a public project, or a portfolio piece that carries your name. When your retained energy leaves your body as structure, message, or craft, it completes the loop. The world receives proof that you've mastered your current. The SEMEN framework turns retention from theory into architecture. Each habit builds pressure in the right direction, ensuring that energy doesn't stagnate but circulates upward. Over time, these rituals form an identity: calm, predictable, sovereign. The man who lives this way doesn't talk about transmutation. He embodies it. His silence becomes organized, his days ritualized, and his aura steady like a current of grounded light. A man who refines his energy must learn to express it with precision. Retention sharpens perception, but without communication, it remains isolated potential. The art lies in speaking with the same restraint that governs your impulses. Measured, deliberate, and effective, high-impact communication turns inner mastery into social influence. There are books that inform, and there are books that initiate. Alchemy of the Gods is not meant to be read, it's meant to be lived. Inside its pages, the ancient fire of Kundalini stirs like a coiled serpent beneath the spine, waiting to rise. The sacred crystalline oil, the divine essence hidden in every human, begins its ascent, illuminating the mind with a golden clarity once reserved for prophets. This is the forgotten blueprint of spiritual transmutation, where the body becomes the temple and consciousness the flame. Whether in physical, digital, or audiobook form, this work is an open portal, one that calls not to curiosity, but to courage. Step through the gate and let the alchemy begin. Access it now through the link in the description or the pinned comment. For those already walking the path of retention and transmutation, the initiation deepens. The SEMEN Retention Success Path audiobook distills over 2 hours of pure spiritual technology, 6 deep themes that reveal how to convert desire into discipline, tension into focus, and silence into creative fire. It's the definitive key for men ready to unlock total clarity, strength, and spiritual power. And as a sacred bonus, the full ebook The Art of Semen Retention for Men, with 20+ pages of practical rituals and exercises, is available now with 30% off for a limited time. Listen, awaken, and rise. The link is waiting below, in the description and the pinned comment. 1. Speak less, say more. The headline, plus data, plus action, formula. Every sentence should deliver value. Start with a clear headline, a distilled statement that captures attention. Follow it with data or insight that grounds the idea in reality. Then end with a direct action or reflection point. This structure mirrors how powerful minds communicate. Minimal noise, maximum density. You don't fill space, you define it. The listener walks away with clarity, not confusion. 2. Declining draining invitations. protecting energy through language. Not every social request deserves a yes. Learning to say no with elegance preserves the very fuel that builds your aura. Scripts help. I'd love to, but I'm focused on a project that needs my full attention. I'm keeping my schedule tight this month to stay aligned. Each refusal delivered calmly strengthens your boundaries without friction. Respect follows predictability. People start adjusting to your pace instead of pulling you into theirs. 3. Value first networking, contributing before requesting. True networking begins with offering value, not seeking validation. Before asking for help, deliver insight, a resource, or a tangible result. This flips the power dynamic. Your presence becomes an asset, not a request. The retained man enters conversations with the posture of service, not need. Over time, this habit builds an invisible reputation. You're the one who contributes substance where others bring talk. High-impact communication works because it mirrors your internal economy. You no longer waste energy in speech the same way you no longer waste it in pleasure. Every word, pause, and tone becomes intentional. This precision radiates authority without aggression. People listen differently, not because you're louder, but because you've earned silence around your voice. In social settings, you no longer chase validation. You lead with clarity, set boundaries without guilt, and express without overexposing. Professionally, you rise because consistency and calm are currencies most have spent. Every interaction becomes proof of the discipline that forged you. When presence, speech, and purpose align, language turns magnetic. You become the rare individual whose words carry voltage, measured, calm, unforced, yet impossible to ignore. There comes a moment when silence feels heavier than ignorance, when the soul demands evolution. You can stay where comfort numbs, or cross into the fire that refines. The choice is simple but never easy. If this message reached you, it was not by accident. Leave your like as a seal of awakening. Subscribe and activate the bell to step fully into this journey, and watch the next video. The next stage of your initiation begins there.